Welcome. I'm Lauren and this is Fiona. We're cooking technology experts. We're here to educate people about the various different cooking technologies, and today we're looking at ASKO and some of its cooking technology, and in particular we're looking at the ASKO Elements range of ovens. So you can see that it's got a beautiful interface, very much like an iPad screen, very intuitive and easy to use. Now, this particular oven is what's known as a steam combi oven. When we're talking about steam ovens, there are three different types of steam oven that you can buy in the various brands. So the first type of steam oven is one that just steams. It doesn't have elements in it. So it's less useful for most people because it's got less variety of cooking methods. Then you also have what's known as a steam assist oven. So this is an oven that can cook dry cooking and add some steam into that to give us the benefit when we're cooking things like breads and meats, retain the moisture inside the oven as we're cooking. The third type of steam combi oven is what's known as a full steam combi oven, which this is. So that basically combines those with a regular oven. So we have all the regular oven functions that you would get in a full multi-function oven. You can use it completely dry. If you want to cook pavlova, meringue, you can absolutely do that with no steam in the oven at all. You can also, in this oven, add steam at any time during the cook, or use a combination of steam and oven function, hot air basically, through the entire cook, and choosing your level of humidity depending on what you're cooking, whether you want lots of humidity or just a small amount of humidity. And then you can cook with just steam, which is what we're going to be doing today, where we're not using any of the traditional oven elements, but steam, only steam itself is doing the cooking. Now, this oven has huge benefits over many other brands of oven because it has very high levels of technology, but still really super easy to use. So if we go back into here, you can see if we're using dry oven, we go in here. If we're using steam, we've actually got three different types of steam cooking that we can use with this oven. So one is 100-degree steam. If we're steaming over the cooktop here, that's basically what we're getting is 100-degree steam. We're boiling water, creating the steam at 100 degrees, and the steam is cooking the food. Now that's actually a little bit hot often for cooking some types of food. Today we're cooking monkfish, which can absolutely deal with 100 degrees with no problem. But if we were using a much more delicate type of white fish, maybe snapper or teriyaki, you might want to cook it at a much lower temperature than 100 degrees, and on the cooktop we couldn't do that because we're not creating the steam. The water's not getting hot enough to create the steam to cook it. But in here, because this is an oven in an enclosed environment and it's got a thermostat, then the steam obviously is still created at 100 degrees and injected into the oven, but then the thermostat will recognise that the oven temperature is too hot and it will apply the fans and cool that steam down. So you can steam at a very low temperature, and there's lots of reasons why you might want to do that. As I mentioned, for delicate white fish, or if we were doing anything with eggs. Yeah.
Eggs or custards, creme brulees, all those sort of things.
Things that you can't do any other way than in a steam oven. As well as that, so that's our low temperature steam. And then we have this third option here, which is sous vide cooking. So are you aware of what sous vide cooking is? Fiona might like to explain that.
So with the sous vide, it's similar to under vacuum. That's what it translates to. So the food is encased, usually in food safe plastic, and then it's cooked at a really low temperature over a long period of time. And no matter how long it's cooked, it's not going to dry out, and it's also going to take on all aromatics or herbs and spices that you put in that bag with your food. So a lot of restaurants use it because they can pre-cook. So they can pre-sous vide, and then afterwards you can just flash fry it to get it some caramelization, some browning, which is where, that intensity of flavour and texture comes in. So it's really a real asset to be able to do that, especially if you do a lot of entertaining.
And also from a home cook's perspective, if you're cooking a lot of steak or meat, it means that you don't make a mistake. You can't make a mistake. So for instance, if you wanted your meat to be medium rare, and say we were having it at about 58 degrees, if you cook it at 58 degrees, because the key with sous vide, particularly with the sous vide function, and here's is accurate, we choose 58 degrees, no matter how long we cook that piece of meat, and all the time it's cooking is tenderising, but it's never getting past medium rare because it's never getting past 58 degrees. So the ability to do this in the oven makes it much more convenient, because traditional sous vide machines are big water baths. Now, instead of immersing our vacuum sealed bag into a big water bath, we're immersing it, in fact, in a steam, having exactly the same effect. So it gives you the ability to produce a restaurant quality meal, but in a home environment without having to worry about making a mistake. So those are our three steam functions here. They're our oven functions that I talked about before, and if we go in here, you can see we've got a whole lot of extras inside the oven. So this oven comes with numerous cooking presets and programs with recipes supplied. So let's just go into one of these here, and if we go into, let's go into bread, and we'll go into bread here, and bread in a loaf tin. It's telling us it's going to use steam. So by adding steam to our bread, we're going to get a much better rise. My bread is going to keep the surface of our dough much more moist.
With a nice crust.
But you end up with a better crust. It's sort of converse to the way that you would normally think. That what happens with the moisture, first of all, it's going to allow for that rise without the crust setting too early, which would stop that rise happen. And then the moisture on the top actually changes the structure of the proteins in the bread and creates a much crisper but thinner crust on your bread, so you get a great crust. So it tells you it's going to use steam, so it's warning you. And then if we go down here, you can see here is the recipe. So we've got the recipe here as well, so you don't have to worry about knowing what to do. The recipe's all included, and it will guide you completely through the process of cooking. You don't have to know anything.
It's so detailed, it even shows you what shelf level to put it on.
Yep.
That's the level of detail with the ASKO.
Yeah, what sort of tin to use. So you've got all those options, which are really good when you get an oven with new technology to you, because you might think, well, I don't know how long to steam my fish for, but you can go in and choose a program, and that will guide you. And it's really good at the beginning. Maybe after you've had the oven for a few months, you think, oh, I can do this myself now, and you can go in and do it manually, but it gives you the confidence at the beginning to use the oven.
It's also really great if you've got other family members that aren't confident either in cooking or using the oven. You can just say to them, go to the chicken program for stuffed or unstuffed chickens, and put in your weight. You can change the weight and then just press tick and go, and the oven chooses everything for you: what shelf, what temperature, what function. So there's no excuses for family members not to be doing the cook.
Absolutely. You can also save your own with this too. So if you've got a recipe that you particularly like at home, my daughter likes to do roast potatoes, and we use steam and oven to create our roast potatoes. So I set up a program for her, so all she has to do is put them in. Now that brings me to another feature that ASKO ovens have, and that is staged cooking. So there are many different recipes that you might cook that require different functions throughout the cook. One of them, for instance, is a pork belly. So pork belly requires a long, slow cook to tenderise the meat, but it also needs heat from the top to start rendering the fat, and it needs the grill at the end to pop that crackle. Now with most ovens, you would have to do those three different cooking stages: come back to the oven, stop the function, add the new function in, and go away again, and then come back. But with ASKO, you can set those three stages up in advance, and it will run through each stage without you having to come back to the oven at all. So it means that when you've got guests coming for dinner, you can be enjoying their company and not having to be in the kitchen standing over the oven all the time. So up to 3 stages, and super easy to set up too, which is really important. Some oven brands are quite complex and hard to set these sorts of things up. As well as the programs and the staged cooking, we also have warming. So when we have steam in our oven, keeping our food warm means that it's not going to, with steam means it's not going to dry out, and reheating food, you get a much better result than you would in a dry oven because it's keeping that moisture and regenerating. We also could reheat in a microwave, and we're going to talk about this oven above us which has microwave features, but microwave is an inherently dehydrating function because it's boiling the water inside the food, and they of course have evaporation off. With a steam oven, of course, we have the opposite, where the steam is surrounding the food, so we're maintaining the moisture inside the food as we go.
It's also got the probe.
Oh yes, so it also comes with a meat probe. So you can put the meat probe in, and that can control the oven. So that's really important. The probe goes into the, here we can pop this off, put the probe in, put the end of the probe into the meat and say we want to cook that meat until it's
a certain degree,
a certain temperature.
Yeah.
And then the oven will actually stop cooking when it gets to that temperature, so you don't have to be around there. Now this is great for, you know, cooking red meats, but really important when cooking foods like chicken. So you make sure that you know that it's going to be perfectly cooked and not overcooked. We often, home cooks, often overcook our chicken because we're scared of undercooking our chicken. So now you can know, you can guarantee that it's going to be food safe, but it's still going to be moist and perfectly.
So you don't need to be going into the chicken and attacking it and cutting it to see if it's cooked. But it's also really good for the probe for things like beef Wellingtons. So just put the probe in, you don't need to be touching and prodding. You
Your
can
pastry,
just, so that's really good for, instead of putting a cooking time in, you just put a temperature.
Yep, and as soon as you put the probe in, it recognises it, and the actual cooking time. So if I go into a regular cook here, so I choose my oven function here, and then I choose the temperature. I can either choose the temperature just by selecting, or I can and choose a cooking time. I can also slide my cooking function. So you've got the option of press and tap or slide with the temperature, and the same with the cooking time. As soon as you put the probe in, it recognises the probe, and that cooking time turns into a temperature. So you just adjust the temperature to your choice of temperature. Yes, let's get started with our cooking.
I'm impatient.
Now, when we cook, we're just going to be cooking with just steam. So it takes, regardless of the brand of the oven, when we're cooking with just steam, we need the oven to completely fill with steam to start the cook. And we're going to set that up. Now we're just going to use 100-degree steam because what we're cooking is...
It's a firm flesh,
so I'm just going to start it now with the water. So how do we get the water into the oven? Well, this is the water canister, and this water canister holds 1.3 litres. It's one of the biggest on the market, and that will allow us to steam for at least 45 minutes, fully steam. We can pop that in. What's going to happen from here is the water is going to go from that, it's been drawn from that canister to the boiler that you can't see in the oven. That's just going to boil a small amount of water at a time. So it's not like dragging that whole 1.3 litres like a kettle and boiling 1.3 litres. It's just boiling a little bit of water at a time, so it's very efficient, and it's going to inject that steam directly into the oven. And you'll start to see the oven fill up with steam. Now that takes about 6 to 8 minutes for that process to occur, regardless of the size of the oven or the brand of the oven. So you can see already there's the steam just starting to be injected into the oven process.
So ASKO has the, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, that's fine.
So ASKO has the pure steam technology. So only the finest water molecules are injected into the oven. So you just get a really, really gentle steam. There's no heavy droplets of steam.
And the benefit of the pure steam and the very small droplets is when you've finished cooking, you haven't got a very wet oven interior. A lot of people are concerned with steam ovens that when you finish cooking, you're going to have a lot of water to mop up. And with ASKO, because of that pure steam, you get much fewer water molecules in the oven and much less moisture in the base of the oven.
And because of the vaulted ceiling that the ASKO has, the water droplets tend to fall down the outside of the oven, and also the way the oven is designed, the cavity. It's a lot more even, the cooking within the cavity.
The display of the oven's really informative as well. So you can see all the time what the actual temperature is in the oven here. And the little red line there is also an indication from a distance. If you're in the back of the kitchen, you don't have to come right up to the oven to see how hot, what the temperature is, because this red line is telling you it's almost halfway or it's just over halfway. So you can see from a distance very well. That red line will change as well. So once we start cooking, that's the cooking time. It changes so you can see easily from a distance, not having to come. It's all about making life easier for you. That's really important in the oven. Now the oven has a lot of extra features, as I mentioned, and they're all contained here under this plus menu. Because we're cooking in it, I can't show you, but I can show you up here. And this oven here we're also going to be using today. This is what I would call the no compromise oven. So when we've got a full steam oven like this, a 60 centimetre oven, not often customers are saying, well, I want a microwave as well. And you can have a microwave combination oven, absolutely. But what say I was wanting to cook my meat here, I'm doing a roast, and so I'm using heat and steam, but I also want to steam my vegetables, which I'm doing at a much lower temperature. Well, you can't do the two together. So perhaps we need a microwave, but we also need a second steam combi oven. This oven's called the 5-in-1. And what it is an oven. So it's a complete oven just like this is. It's a complete steam combi oven just like this is, but it's also got a microwave in it, and it's got microwave combination, so it can combine the microwave and the oven together. And the real benefit of the microwave combination part of the oven means that you can get an oven result, but in a shorter time. So most people don't like to cook with microwave because the food doesn't look that good. It doesn't have browning.
And the texture's usually quite soggy.
Yes, no browning, no crispness, and the browning is often where the flavour is. So by combining microwave with oven at the same time, we can get all the benefits of cooking with oven temperature, but in about half the time. And for instance, our dessert today, we're doing little fruit crumbles. Now, if we were to do those in the oven, this is raw fruit. They'd probably take about 30 minutes, Fiona?
30 minutes.
We're going to have these in about 9 minutes. So the microwave is really cooking the fruit for us from the inside out, but the oven is going to be providing that crisp crumble on the top.
So if you love pies, and convenience foods like that, it's a great asset to your kitchen, because frozen pies, if you do it in the microwave, just insipid and soggy, but by adding the oven functions, the pastry becomes really nice and crispy. But we've also got the speed of the microwave doing that, so it's kind of
so it's
really
almost like the
result.
oven working from the outside in and the microwave working from the inside out. So our oven here is up to temperature, so it's beeped, and we can put our fish in. Now, one of the real benefits of cooking with steam is that you can have your whole meal cooked together. For instance, today we got rice and fish and vegetables. Now the rice takes the longest, so we've already started that today, and we're going to put the fish in now. It's only going to take about 10 minutes to cook the fish. So the
fish is really simple. It's just little portions of the monkfish, and with a really light marinade of just soy sauce,
ginger, it's sitting on a bed of
sesame
ginger,
oil, and some spring onions.
So we'll pop that in. And so this is going to take about 10 minutes. So we can put a timer on here for 10 minutes. But our vegetables, they're going to take about 6 minutes. So we'll put another timer on for 4 minutes to remind us to put our vegetables in.
So that way that everything's ready.
So it all
at
comes
the same
out
time.
together. And our rice will have been ready because we've started that earlier, but that takes about 30 minutes to cook the rice. At the same time, if we had wanted to, we could maybe do a steamed dessert as well. And in fact, one of the things that I do at home, often when I've got a big crowd, is I'll do a whole tray of a fish curry, a whole tray of rice, and a whole tray of a steamed pudding. And that's 20 minutes cooking and enough food for 10 people. Now, a lot of people might say, well, you can't cook a curry and a pudding at the same time because your pudding's going to taste of curry or smell of curry. When you cook with steam, the odours and the flavours of those foods are contained within the individual foods. The steam actually stops the odours and flavours intermingling.
Yeah. So another benefit of the steam, like when you're cooking vegetables and everything, is there's less shrinkage, so there's higher yieldage. So a lot of vitamins and nutrients are actually leached into your cooking water when you cook on the stovetop. But when we cook them in the steam oven, they retain all those vitamins. Vitamin C and folic acid are not destroyed, and they keep their real vibrant colours. So vegetables are perfect in the steam oven. And the other thing is we can cook, as you can see, on a variety of multiple layers. We don't need to just cook on single layers. So we could have that, if we had smaller containers, we could have 3 or 4 racks of food going at the same time, and it's not going to affect the cooking time. So different quantities it's all going to be the same cooking time. So say like 1 cup of rice is going to take the same cooking time as 6 cups of rice. So that's another benefit of the oven.
Do you got any questions? What?
Yes, I do. So, may I put the chicken on the top and leave the vegetables at the bottom level, or I need to do that?
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where in the oven they go. When you're doing a full steam, that is.
So often we're cooking today in glass trays, but the oven comes with a series of perforated trays, which allow for the steam to get to the food from all methods. Now, all angles. Now, one thing we do have to be aware of is to put a solid tray underneath those to stop the drips. So in that instance, for the chicken, I would put the chicken under the vegetables so that we didn't get the chicken dripping on the vegetables. But if we had fish, it wouldn't really make much difference. And in fact, if you have the rice on the bottom, you're going to get the flavours and the goodness out of that. It's going to drip through. It's going to season our rice. Yes. So it's all your own choice and the way that you choose to cook it. You can cook it in a solid tray or you can cook it in these metal trays. These are quite thin stainless steel trays, and that means that they're going to be very quick to heat up and quick to conduct the heat. Just going to be more efficient. Glass is also really good, but our fish we've done in a ceramic container, and that is going to just affect the cooking time a little bit. But obviously we've got a sauce in there, and we couldn't cook this in a sauce.
So ASKO comes with a lot of hardware, probably
more than anybody
would ever use. But it also comes with this particular model with 3 sets of telescopic runners, which are a real bonus because when you pull them out, you don't have to, with your
heavy trays. It's much safer. So that's our egg timer to remind us to put our...
Are we putting this on it?
Yes. Yeah. To put our vegetables in.
All right.
We're just adding a little bit of sticky stuff to that. And we open it up. You do get some release of steam, but if you're really organised, it's not going to take long for this oven to build back its steam again. So while that's cooking, we'll go back up here to look at the 5-in-1. So here's our 5-in-1. So we can use it as a microwave. I've got this oven at home, for instance. My husband loves it to heat the dog food up for a minute. If I didn't have this, poor dog would have to have cold food every day.
Spoiled dog.
I don't use a microwave a lot myself for cooking, and I didn't think I would miss a microwave if I just went for a steam oven. But in actual fact, since I've had this oven, I've realised what I was missing out on, and that's not from the microwave alone. It's for that ability to combine the two functions. So I might go in here, I might be steaming a side of salmon, but I can have a roast vegetable salad, and I've come home from work and I've been cooking all day. A roast vegetable salad would probably take me about 45 or 50 minutes to cook. The salmon's only going to take 12 minutes to cook in the steam oven. I can have a roast vegetable salad in here done in 18 minutes from a cold oven. So it's really convenience, it's making convenience. Nobody would know that I'd used any microwave at all, and the key for that is using just a small amount of microwave. If we use full power microwave, those vegetables are going to be completely cooked within, you know, that 6 or 7 minutes, but they're going to look soggy and not appealing at all. So we just drop the microwave power down to maybe use a third or even less power, and then that's just going to slowly cook from the inside out while the oven has time to do its job from the outside in. You can get that great result, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. But as well as that, it's got the same features as the oven below. So we've also got programs with staged cooking as well, so you can set up your own or use the guided programs here. We've still got the same warming, and this is the cleaning, which we'll go talk about the cleaning of the oven once we've got this into the oven. But we're going to set this up using the combi, and we've got two cooking function or two cooking options with a microwave combi. We can use hot air and microwave, so that's going to do a lot of crisping. That's really good for pastries. It's good for things if we wanted to cook casserole or something like that, where it just needs heating through but quicker with, you know, aided with microwave. Where we want browning, we're going to use the fan assisted grill. So this is what we're going to use for the crumble. This would also be really good for things like a potato gratin. You want the microwave to help with the potato cooking, but you really need that grilling, browning in the top. So we're going to choose that function, and we're going to choose 200 degrees, and we're going to drop the wattage, because we haven't got that much here. We're going to drop the wattage down to 360 watts so that we can get it done quickly, and it's just going to take 9 minutes. Fiona's going to pop it in. We'll put it fairly near the top of the oven because we want that grill to really have an effect, and it's only going to be in there for such a short time.
So that's good, just got raw fruit.
So we're sort of starting from a semi-cold oven here too, aiding and saving time as well. So the microwave's cooking right from the get-go, but the oven is going to gradually heat up and cook that crumble from the top.
Can I ask something?
Yes.
How do you know it's going to take 9 minutes for them to be done?
Yes, so with microwave combination, a lot of it is a little bit of trial and error. It depends on the volume of the food. So, you know, when you cook food in a microwave, if you have one baked potato that you were cooking, or one potato that you were cooking in a microwave, it would take about 8 minutes. It wouldn't be very appealing, but it would take about 8 minutes. If you have 2 potatoes, it's going to take more than 8 minutes because the microwaves are distributed from the generator into 2 pieces of food. So completely different from an oven, right? Where an oven is the energy is surrounding the food. With microwave, the energy is divided amongst the food. So it's a balance when you're using microwave combination to get the right time and temperature and cooking time and wattage. So in general, we say start with half the cooking time. Now we've got 2 apple crumbles in here. If I had 4 apple crumbles, the time that the oven's going to take to do that crisping is the same, but the microwave is going to have to be divided amongst 2 more crumbles. So maybe we'd up the wattage, keep the time the same and the temperature the same. And it is a little bit of trial and error. One of the great things as far as buying from Kitchen Things is that we have recipes where our team has created these recipes and we've all tested them, and so you can access that database of recipes as well, which is a good starting point.
Yeah.
And it's an ASKO oven and an ASKO microwave, right?
Yeah.
Steam oven and
Yeah.
steam microwave.
Yes, yeah. So this basically is where you don't have to compromise at anything.
So that's us.
That's our meal is ready. So that's how fast this was to cook a meal. It's so convenient to be able to have this really healthy meal so quickly. A lot of people are very surprised that you can cook rice in a steam oven. It just means one more appliance that you can get off your bench as well.
And what type of rice it is?
So this particular one here we've got is
Basmati.
basmati, but you can use any type of rice. The cooking time changes depending on the rice. Obviously using brown rice, it's going to take longer, just like it would take longer on the cooktop. And in actual fact, it's really about the same length of time, regardless of the cooking method for rice. It's, you know, you can't really speed it up too much and get a really good result.
See how fluffy it is?
Yeah.
Now, what I said I would mention later is the maintenance, the cleaning. So there's a couple of different types of maintenance with this oven. Because there's a boiler in the oven, and that's boiling water and reducing that water into steam, there'll always be a build-up of minerals, even in Auckland where we have quite soft water. So the oven will calculate, will remind you when you need to run what's known as a descaling program. So you have it's very simple, you have descaling solution, you pour it into that canister and it runs through and guides you through the process. Can't get more simple than that. And as far as the cleaning goes, now so far everything I've said about a steam oven is positive. And the one slight negative of a full steam oven is that it can't be pyrolytic. And that's because the seal that is required for pyrolytic ovens doesn't contain the moisture enough. So we can't have a pyrolytic oven. But what we can have with a steam oven is a steam clean. So in this instance, the cleaning basically saturates the oven. You know, I said that we have a pure steam. It's a very small molecule of water. It's quite dry when we've finished. So if you have a look in the oven here, you can see that there's only a few drops in the bottom of the oven. But if we run a steam clean, it saturates the oven. So the steam actually goes, a very steamy environment goes up to the top, and that vaulted ceiling means that the moisture and the dirt runs down the sides of the oven and collects in the bottom, and you can wipe it out. So both these ovens have that steam clean option. Sometimes you might get something really burnt on, well you can use just a spray on or paint on. We like to use a spot cleaner just for when you really have to, and then you can use that steam clean option as well to assist getting rid of all the extra chemicals if you have to use those.
How much is the capacity of the steam?
The size of the oven?
No, the capacity of the steam.
Oh, so yeah, 1.3 litres, which will allow you to steam for at least 45 minutes, full steam. And if you are using sous vide, which uses a less moist environment, or steam assist, which is even less moisture inside the oven, it can go for hours. So 2, 3, 4 hours of steam assist cooking. So you don't have to worry about coming back.
It's very rare that it runs out.
But in the case of the oven running out of water, what will happen is it will beep and tell you. You don't have to open the oven door or stop the cooking process, because when it says it's run out of water, it's just run out of water from the canister here. So you can fill that up and then it will carry on.
And are we able to cook any type of food with the steam oven? Or
well, obviously some foods are better in the steam oven. In a full steam, are you talking?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah,
yes.
and better than others. So it's great for grains, you know, like rice, couscous, cracked wheat, that sort of thing. Obviously vegetables, it's perfect for green leafy vegetables, green vegetables. Fish, you can actually steam fish, or if you put the chicken in, and it's like it turns out like a poached fish. You can do eggs, you can do porridge. It's pretty much everything.
Yeah, anything that you could steam on the cooktop, you can steam in an oven, but with much more convenience
and more precision. Yep. So we can, as Lauren's already said, we can reduce, you know, the temperature, so we can go to 80 or lower if we're sous videing with
shellfish. Fantastic. Once you've cooked shellfish in the steam oven, you'd never go back to cooking shellfish on the cooktop, because often people say they're steaming open their mussels, say, and they put them in a bottom of a saucepan that's directly on the heat. Well, the bottom of that saucepan is way hotter than 100 degrees, and so they're very quick to open the mussel shells, but very quick to overcook, because there's a fine line between with seafood and when it's overcooked, and you often get that very tough ligament around a mussel when it's cooked here. Now it's going to take about 10 minutes to open the shells here, but they're going to be much more tender and succulent than they would on the cooktop.
The oven needs to be plump or no?
No, so this one isn't plumbed, and there's really no need for it to be plumbed because we just use tap water in here. So you don't have to have filtered or distilled water, you just use straight tap water in here.
And how many programs you said that?
There's numerous programs, so yeah, there's absolutely numerous programs. So if we go in here, I'll just go into the extras and show you. We've got a lot of categories. So
And then they've got subcategories.
yeah, and then there's subcategories within the category. So if we go into vegetables, and then we've got steamed fresh vegetables, and then within the steamed fresh vegetables, you've got all of these vegetables. So you can see there's a lot of programs in here, and as that's really useful from, you know, when you start using
It's
the
more
oven,
of a
you can-
guide, probably,
Yeah.
and then at the beginning, it's like a guide.
You can go, okay, carrots are going
Yeah.
to take. And when we're cooking a meal like this, all you need to know is what's going to take the longest to cook, and that's what you put in first. And then what's going to take the shortest to cook, and that's going to go in last. And in general, the time that it would take on the cooktop is
Yeah.
the time that it would take in
It's
the oven.
the same order, pretty much,
Yes.
as you'd
as you
do.
cook normally.
Yeah.
It's just all being contained inside the oven.
And they are for all different ways of cooking, not only for steam, the recipe.
That's right, yeah, so the recipes cover everything.
Yeah.
And in the 5-in-1, they cover microwave combi, steam combi, and regular oven functions as well.
Ding dong.
And there's our crumble, it's all beautifully brown.
Oh, the cream.
Well, Fiona will go and grab some cream to top it with for you.
So hot.
We mentioned the hardware. You get a lot of hardware, so you get every oven tray, steam tray that you could possibly want. You get in the microwave combi, you get a glass tray for microwaving, which is great for oven to table as well.
The color is amazing on the tray.
Yeah, so you've got in 9 minutes, you've
Yeah.
got a dessert that there's just no way you could do
It's
that
hot.
any other way.
And it's not too hot.
It's a little bit hot.
It's quite hot. Because
Because it's been under a hot
it's
grill.
230 degrees.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a little hot.
But for me, it's the convenience,
Yeah.
that being able to come home from work and have a really nice meal on the
And
table
it's
in a very
well,
short time.
Without this, it's probably, it's reasonably healthy. Like,
This is very healthy.
Yeah.
so we'll just put a dollop of thickened cream, but you could put custard, ice cream. And in fact, you can do your custards in the steam oven. You can do all your curds, because it gives you the opportunity to reduce and the steam levels. So use those there as well. I should put some raspberries on top.
And we eat knife and fork.
Looks nice in any case.
Bon appetit.
Yes.
Yeah, may I?
Yes, absolutely.